If justice was blind, then why does it feel like we're the ones being kept in the dark? An 11-year-old boy is found dead, his mother arrested, a community in uproar, and a courtroom choking on secrets. But what if I told you, the same people shouting for justice may have missed something? Something small, something thin, a towel ignored, photos with no dates, a door left open for doubt. This isn't just the Tiffany Meek case. It's a story about how quick we are to judge and how easy it is for the truth to get buried, right next to the victim. But before we dive in, kindly subscribe to our channel if you believe in fighting for justice. We've just crossed 2,000 subscribers, all because of your support, and we need that same energy to reach 3,000, then 5,000, and then 10,000. So go ahead and drop your DNA on that subscribe button, because wherever you are, the day this vision is fulfilled, I will send my appreciation straight to you. Let's keep building this community that fights for justice together. July 14th, 2025. Roodepoort Magistrate's Court. The air was heavy, not just with tension, but with the eyes of an entire nation. Reporters lined the back, activists waited outside, and at the center of it all, Tiffany Meek, dressed in muted tones, face pale, eyes swollen. She sat silently in the dock, glancing only occasionally at the gallery, where the very people who once comforted her now stared in stunned betrayal. The hearing was not to determine guilt, but to ask a chilling question: should she walk free while accused of murdering her own son? The charges laid bare were brutal: murder, criminal injuria, defeating the ends of justice, obstruction. The state made their position clear. They would fight her release with everything they had. Bail, they said, would not serve justice. And so the hearing began, not just of evidence, but of character, credibility, and contradiction. Outside the courthouse, Fleurhof stood divided, but devastated. Some clutched handwritten posters, "Justice for Jayden-Lee." Others wore black ribbons. And then there were the tears, raw, public grief pouring out into the streets. The community once rallied around Tiffany Meek, a mother whose child vanished without a trace. But that narrative fractured. Now the same neighbors who helped her search were shouting her name with fury. Activists took the mic. "This isn't just about Jayden-Lee," one said, voice trembling. "This is about a system that always fails the most vulnerable. We're here because we're tired of finding our babies in body bags." One elderly woman, a local Sunday school teacher, whispered to a reporter, "We trusted her, we prayed with her, and now we don't know what to believe." The heartbreak was no longer silent. It echoed in marches, in memorials, and in the haunting quiet of Jayden-Lee's empty school chair. May 13th, 2025, a date that still chokes the Fleurhof community with grief. That evening, panic spread like wildfire. Jayden-Lee Meek, just 11 years old, had not returned home. The neighborhood WhatsApp groups lit up. Flyers were printed. Voices called out his name in the dark. And by morning, Fleurhof had transformed into a search grid. His mother, Tiffany Meek, was at the center, visibly distraught, urging the public to help. But something was off. Some neighbors noticed the delay in her report. Others wondered why she wasn't seen looking through the night. Then, the unthinkable, May 14th. Jayden's body was found lifeless in his own apartment, his school uniform folded nearby. The shock rippled far beyond Fleurhof. News vans parked outside the building. Hashtags trended. The nation demanded answers. From the start, the outrage was overwhelming. How could a child go missing and end up dead, in his own home? Accusations emerged. Rumors circled. The public, desperate for justice, began pointing fingers. And through it all, one question refused to go away. How long had the truth been hiding in plain sight? The arrest came swiftly, but not quietly. Tiffany Meek was taken into custody just days after Jayden's body was discovered. The grieving mother the public once rallied behind was now the prime suspect. On June 17, 2025, she stepped into the dock at the Roodepoort Magistrate's Court. Dressed in muted tones, face expressionless, but eyes trembling under the weight of a nation's glare. Her defense attorney, Advocate Novan Naidu, wasted no time. His cross-examination of the lead investigating officer, Sergeant Nabadako, was fierce. Why hadn't key evidence been collected? Why wasn't the alleged blood-stained towel sent to forensics? And perhaps most damning, why weren't the police photos dated? The officer stammered. It didn't cross my mind, he admitted. But the state stood its ground. Tiffany, they argued, was a flight risk. She could disappear before trial. And perhaps more pressing, the community was enraged. The courtroom overflowed with tension. Protesters outside carried signs. Inside, murmurs of disbelief at every revelation. The prosecutor made it clear. Her release, he said, would not serve the interests of justice. And thus the legal storm began. A mother's freedom, a boy's death, and a justice system now under public scrutiny. Then came the cracks in the investigation. Cracks the defense would pry wide open. A blood-stained towel, discovered in Tiffany's apartment, but never collected. The investigating officer admitted it remained untouched. No lab tests, no photos, no chain of custody. Then, the photographs, the same images the state relied on to support their version of events, had no timestamps. No proof they were taken on May 14th, the day Jayden was found lifeless. And most damning of all, the crime scene wasn't sealed. Anyone, the defense argued, could have entered. Anyone could have moved things, left things. Which brings us to the school bag. The prosecution insists that bag proves Jayden went to school and returned home. But the defense sees something else entirely. A staged clue, a prop left behind to complete a narrative. Advocate Naidoo posed the chilling question to the court. If this crime scene was wide open, who's to say someone else didn't place that bag there? The jury may be months away, but the seed of doubt, the possibility that Tiffany Meek is not the only one with motive or means, had been planted. And in a courtroom already divided by grief and fury, that question echoed louder than any verdict. Could someone else be responsible for Jayden's death? The prosecution made one thing clear. This wasn't the trial. Not yet. They held back. Purposefully. Key evidence, witness testimonies, forensic details, all sealed, all saved for the main stage. Their reasoning? To protect the integrity of the case. To avoid a pre-trial circus. But in Fleurhof, the circus had already arrived. Outside the courthouse, it wasn't just anger. It was heartbreak dressed in fury. Protesters held black placards with Jayden's name scrawled in red. Justice for Jayden. No bail for killers. Police lined the gates. Crowds pushed against the barriers. And while only a few could fit inside the courtroom, the court of public opinion was standing room only, especially online. Comments flooded live streams. Threads filled with outrage, theories, and threats. Some still called Tiffany a grieving mother. Others had already named her something else. The prosecution leaned into that sentiment. They reminded the court of the risk. That releasing Tiffany could spark chaos. That justice was not just about legal precedent, but public safety. Inside, Tiffany sat stone-faced. Outside, the noise didn't stop, and the question began to rise louder than before. When a community has already made up its mind, is there still room for justice to breathe? The state painted a grim picture, one not just of what Tiffany Meek may have done, but what could happen to her next. They argued she should remain behind bars, for her own protection. Inside the courtroom, the prosecutor pointed to the fury outside, the threats, the outrage, the relentless judgment from a community that once rallied behind her. If she walks free, the state warned, she could be harmed. But the defense didn't let that argument stand unchallenged. Advocate Novan Naidoo pushed back hard. If safety was the concern, what safety exists behind prison walls? Inmates read the headlines too. Guards whisper. Justice, they argued, shouldn't mean placing an accused mother in the lion's den before she's ever stood trial. The irony cut deep. Tiffany Meek, accused of killing her son, might now become the next victim in a system built to protect both the guilty and the innocent. It raised a fundamental question, echoing in the minds of everyone watching. Is the justice system acting to protect her? Or is it punishing her in advance? And when public anger becomes part of the legal calculus, who really decides what safety looks like? As the gavel draws closer to falling, both sides made their final moves. The defense, firm in their stance, insists the evidence is shaky, the investigation flawed, and their client unfairly targeted. They say Tiffany Meek has every reason to face trial, and no reason to run. The state, unmoved, still convinced she poses a threat to the process, and perhaps even to herself. And now, with the courtroom arguments wrapping, a new set of eyes enter the frame. Two private investigative firms, not hired by the state, but offering their services pro bono, to search for what they call the real killer. That offer only complicates the narrative. If there is someone else, where are they? And if there isn't, what's motivating these investigators to step in? Outside the courtroom, the community waits, not with patience, but with anger. With signs, chants, and digital pitchforks. Justice for Jayden. No bail for Tiffany. The system must answer. But inside that court, justice moves slower, carefully, sometimes frustratingly. The judgment on Tiffany Meek's bail application has been postponed. Maybe tomorrow will bring answers. Or maybe more questions. Is this truly the case of a mother hiding the darkest of truths? Or is this the moment a legal system, under the full weight of public rage, begins to bend?